I want to tell you about a night I remember clearly. I was standing in my kitchen at around 11 p.m. and I had eaten so well that day, just genuinely well, and I was so proud of myself. And then something happened. I don't even remember what it was. And I just started eating bread, waffles, just anything that was in the cupboard that was easily accessible. I was just eating, not even tasting it, standing up, just shoving food down for no reason at all. And the worst part wasn't even the food. The worst part was what happened after. The voice, you know the one. You've ruined it. You have no self-control. What is wrong with you? Just start again on Monday. If that sounds familiar, I need you to stay with me because what I'm going to share with you in this video has completely changed my relationship with food. And it has nothing to do with willpower, it has nothing to do with rules, and it has nothing to do with starting over. Here's the thing that nobody is saying honestly about binging. It is not a character flaw, it is not lack of willpower, it is not proof that you're broken, and it is definitely not evidence that fat loss isn't for you. Binging is a biological response. It is your body doing exactly what a body does when it is underfed, over-restricted, or chronically stressed. It's a survival mechanism. And the reason why most binging advice doesn't work is because it treats it like a behavioral problem, when really it is a physiological and psychological response to restriction. When someone tells you to just have more willpower or track better or to meal prep on Sunday so you're not tempted midweek, they are treating a symptom. They're not touching the cause. And that's part of the problem. I know this because I've lived it for years. I also have a biology degree and I spent a significant amount of time understanding the mechanisms of what happens to your body when you're restricting food. And I'm going to break it down for you in this video. I want to take you back a few years because I think context matters here. I grew up in Cyprus in a very sporty family. I played volleyball. I always wanted to play football. I dabbled in running a little bit. But I was always moving. And then when I was in my teens, just like most girls, I wanted to be smaller. I was already lean. There was nothing more for me to lose, but I wanted a different body shape. I wanted wider hips. I wanted a smaller waist. I wanted a more defined hourglass figure. And that just wasn't my body structure. In fact, it's still something that I am mentally struggling with, that is just not something that is achievable for me because you cannot change bone structure. And the pressure I put on myself to be the leanest, to look the best, to be the best student, the best volleyball player, got to me. There was so much pressure that I was putting on myself for no reason. I was giving myself expectations that were not possible to achieve. So I was doing volleyball training about 3 times a week. I was doing high intensity interval workouts off of YouTube, as well as Pilates in my bedrooms and endless crunches and ab workouts every single day. And I cut out all ultra-processed food. I was obsessed with eating clean, and all of this before I was even 15. And then I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, a chronic inflammatory bowel disease, and my whole structure was gone overnight. The doctor told me to stop exercising because I couldn't put any stress on my body. I had to stop eating clean and whole foods because those were complex carbs and my gut just couldn't handle it. And just like that, all of my personality was gone out the window. So I swung completely the other way, all or nothing. I gave up on food, I gave up on training, I gave up on my grades. I was in a really bad place, but I didn't want to show it. I was the funny one, trying to make jokes, always laughing, because I didn't want anybody to know that I was struggling. Nobody knew that I had this chronic disease. I was so embarrassed that I had something that was out of my control. Fast forward to university, COVID happens about 4 months in, and I'm stuck in a studio with Netflix, a kitchen, and nowhere to be. And I gained a significant amount of weight very, very fast because I was doing nothing else but cooking, baking, eating, and watching Netflix. The majority of my meals were healthy, like genuinely healthy, but the amount of calories I was eating was so large that no amount of walking and home workouts that I was doing could actually offset everything that I was eating. When I finally got home on a repatriation flight, I was face to face with the reality of what I had done to my body. I hated what I saw in the mirror. I had treated my body like a bin, and it showed. I looked like trash, I felt like trash, I felt disgusting, and I hated that I had done that to myself. So that is when the restriction spiral got really bad. I went from eating for comfort to completely tracking absolutely everything and being so obsessed with it that if I had gone 50 calories over my 800 calorie limit that I set to myself, I would go insane. I would have a mental breakdown, and it just was not a good place to be. The worst thing is that I didn't want anybody to know. I intentionally kept it to myself that I was struggling so much, and small comments from family members or friends that I had maybe gained a little bit of weight, they hit harder than I let it show. Obviously, with eating 800 calories, I had lost some weight, but because it was such a restrictive diet, I would eventually binge whenever I saw my siblings eat a Nutella sandwich or we had a pizza night as a family. I would eat so much food, I would feel so uncomfortable and yet again disgusting that I allow myself to get so out of control because I did not feel in control. I don't know what I was expecting because 800 calories is completely unsustainable. So obviously I put the weight back on. That is not even enough for a toddler to survive on. And then I would restrict again and again, over and over. And I thought that I had a willpower problem. I thought that I was just weak. And that if I wanted it badly enough on Monday, I would be able to lose it by Thursday. But that was just not true. Things take time. What I actually had wasn't a willpower problem, it was a restriction problem, and those are not the same thing. So let me actually explain what is happening to your body when you restrict so much. When you eat significantly below your maintenance level for an extended period of time, your body treats that as a threat, not a diet, a threat. And that is because your body knows that it's not getting enough fuel and it responds accordingly. Ghrelin, your hunger hormone, goes up. Leptin, your satiety hormone, goes down. Your brain starts sending increasingly loud signals to eat, and those signals get louder and louder the longer you restrict and the harder you try and white-knuckle through it. So by the time you're standing in your kitchen at 11 p.m., you're not weak. You're operating a highly stressed nervous system against a cascade of hormones that are quite literally screaming for you to eat. Willpower is not designed to override that. Nobody's willpower is that strong. The binge is not the problem. The binge is the result. The restriction is the problem. There is also a psychological layer that makes this even worse and harder to deal with. When you frame certain foods as off limits, your brain increases your desire for them immediately. This has a name, and it is called the ironic rebound effect. The more you tell yourself that you cannot have something, or the more that you're trying to avoid a certain thought, the more mental space it takes up. The more you think about it, and the moment your resolve drops, even slightly, you don't just have one biscuit, you have all of them, because your brain doesn't know when it will have access to it again. That is not weakness, that is predictable human psychology. So what actually works? I'm going to give you 3 things that completely changed my relationship with food. Firstly, stop undereating. I know it sounds obvious, but it is very important. If you're consistently eating below 1,500, 1,400 calories, and you're an active woman, it's a deficit that your body will eventually fight back against. The fix is not more restriction, but eating enough so that binging doesn't feel like a biological necessity. This does not mean that you will stop losing fat. It means that you're giving your body enough fuel so that it stops panicking. You can absolutely be in a moderate deficit and still lose fat, but you cannot push through an 800 calorie diet and expect binging to stop. Secondly, remove morality from food. I know this is harder because it's deeply conditioned, but as long as food is split into good and bad, clean and dirty, on plan, off plan, you will binge, because restriction and rebellion are two sides of the same coin. When nothing is forbidden, nothing has that forbidden fruit energy. When you can eat a biscuit on a Tuesday, you don't feel the need to eat a whole pack of it on a Saturday. And that is so freeing. The scarcity is what drives the urgency. And by the way, this is not giving up on fat loss. This is just making it sustainable so you can actually do it. Thirdly, get curious instead of critical. I know most women, after a binge, they get even more restrictive. They basically go into punishment mode. They restrict the next day, they skip the gym because they don't feel like they should be there, they don't deserve to be there. Or they are the complete opposite, that they go to the gym and they spend way longer than they normally would there. And they're constantly in that mindset of, I'll start again on Monday, I'll start next week, I'll start next month, I'll get it right one day. And every single one of those responses make the next binge more likely, not less likely. Instead, get curious. What happened before the binge? Were you underslept, overstressed? Did you restrict, forget to eat, and then your body was just trying to catch up on fuel because it was starving? Was there an emotion that you were avoiding or trying to manage by finding comfort in food? And don't get me wrong, you're not looking for an excuse here, you're looking for data to see what actually triggers it. Because when you understand your patterns, you can change them. But if you're too busy hating your body and yourself, you will never change. I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me when I was 19, standing in a university kitchen, eating things I didn't even want because I was surviving on restriction all week. You are not someone who cannot control themselves around food. You're someone who was given an unsustainable, unrealistic set of rules around food, and then you blamed your body for rejecting them. And that is not the same thing, and it matters that you know and understand the difference. The women I work with who now have the best relationship with food are not the ones that found more willpower. They are the ones that stopped needing it. They are the ones who ate enough that the urge to binge quietly disappeared. They are the ones who removed the rules that were creating rebellion in their body. They are the ones who got curious with themselves instead of cruel and judgmental. That is available to you as well, not on Monday, not after another fresh start, but right now, with the body and the history and the complicated relationship you already have with food. If this video helped you see something differently, subscribe, because this is the kind of conversations that I want to keep having. No toxic positivity, no clean eating bullshit, just the truth about why we make fat loss harder than it actually is, harder than it should be, and what to actually do about it. If you want the practical tools that I use with my clients to start rebuilding their relationship with food, the link is in the description below. Subscribe, watch this next, and I'll see you in the next one.